Good evening and welcome to our Tuesday Night Live. We're so glad you're here. This live will begin shortly, and we're excited to share this journey with you. This is a space of kindness and encouragement, so let's be welcoming to everyone looking to better themselves. If you have questions, drop them in the chat or use the super chat to make sure it gets addressed. Thank you for being a part of our community. Let's make it a great night. Welcome back to Tuesday Night Live. Again, just me, Chandra's at Pickleball, and Goodwill, because that's what she's going to do on Tuesdays now, for now, until they move it back to Wednesdays. But anyway, grab your beverage of choice, settle in, get comfortable. Tonight's going to be a fun night, and one of those nights that hopefully we have a great conversation that starts in one place, ends somewhere completely different. Sometimes the most interesting discussions aren't about what we're doing inside this community. They're about about how, I should say, the rest of the world sees what we're doing. And what do I mean by this? Okay. Recently, just as a couple of days ago, the New York Post published an article discussing the carnivore diet after speaking with Dr. Ken Berry. Well, Ken Berry spoke with Fox News. They released an article. New York Post also picked up this article and released it. And as expected, there were obviously not nearly as many issues as you would think. There was also obviously some pushback. They were concerns about, concerns raised about long-term sustainability, nutrient deficiencies, and the same criticisms we've all heard 1,000 times before, right? But what caught my attention wasn't necessarily what they got wrong. What caught my attention is what what they're talking about it. If I could actually talk, the fact that they're talking about it at all. The fact that the New York Post picked it up, and it wasn't a total hit piece, okay? It wasn't a total, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It was a relatively constructive article when you take into consideration the current climate of meat. How people view eating meat, right? So they're talking about it. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, most of the mainstream outlets wouldn't even give carnivore the time of day. 10 years ago, carnivore wasn't even really on my radar. So, realistically, I think, I'm surprised that there wasn't, an entire article written about, it being reckless, dangerous, and now that they're actually willing to have this kind of conversation is very interesting, and it's very promising. And that brings me back to something that, we've been talking about for weeks now. Again, whether we realize it or not, more people are paying attention than ever before. Every article, every podcast, every interview, every success story brings new eyes into this space. Some show up curious. Most arrive very, very skeptical, as one would be, right? It's not unheard of to be skeptical. I remember in the early 2000s when the Atkins diet was kind of booming. I would be out at a restaurant and see a group of people doing Atkins, and they were all ordering, T-bone steaks or whatever, right? And I'm thinking, oh man, they're just eating meat. Their cholesterol And I'm like in my early 20s and I'm thinking these things. I'm in my early 20s eating a terrible diet. I'm eating the worst foods. I'm at Denny's, seeing this happen. So obviously I'm not making the best life choices. I'm a smoker. I'm at Denny's. I eat a lot of fast food, McDonald's, Taco Bell, whatever, right? So of course they're going to show up skeptical. Some are going to be convinced that we're all completely batshit crazy. 100%. But regardless of how they arrive, they're watching. They're waiting for one of us to have a heart attack. And that happens. It happens. They're waiting for us to have strokes. It happens. Why does that happen? Why does that happen? Because the fact that most of us are showing up here in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s after a lifetime of poor decision making, wrong advice, bad nutritional information, and we've eaten ourselves sick. So now we have started to implement changes. We've started to implement better lifestyle approaches. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to correct everything we've put our body through for the last multiple decades. This month is my birthday month. I turned 47 this month. I put my body through hell. I ate the worst, cheapest, grossest, most awfulest food you could imagine. I was a drinker. I was a smoker. I did anything and everything you shouldn't do to your body. But again, they're waiting. They're watching. Now, what are they going to see? They're going to see a lot of us making impactful, meaningful changes to our lives. Not just the weight loss, not just the outside, not just the things that they can see, but those who are watching us, paying attention, are going to see everything from inflammation disappearing to mental stability, to mental clarity, getting off of a large amount, if not all, medications. They're going to see all kinds of things that are happening in this community that don't make sense. And again, we're going to see and we're going to hear people pushing back. Well, that's all well and good for right now. They're losing weight. They're doing these things. But what does that look like to their arteries in 10 years? Because again, of course they're asking these questions. Of course they're making these statements because for the last 150, 200 years, we have been inundated with more and more and more highly processed, highly palatable, shelf-stable foods on top of the idea that cholesterol is bad, the ever-growing concern that meat is not only bad for us, that it's bad for the environment. So of course they're watching. Of course they're waiting for us to fail. And some of us will. Now, they're deciding whether this community is something worth learning from or something worth dismissing. So it's up to us. This is why I believe we have such an amazing responsibility in how we present ourselves. We can be passionate without being reckless. We can be confident without making promises we can't keep. We can share our experiences without claiming we have all the answers. Because the reality is that most people will still view keto and carnivore through a very different lens than we do. Many still believe that eating meat is dangerous. Many still believe fat causes heart disease. Many still believe that breakfast cereal is healthier than steak because decades and decades of messaging, commercials, articles, all of the things, pop culture is a huge one. It grows and festers. All the things because, again, what we live gets written into the things that we enjoy. Movies, TV shows, all these things, books. Millions of books have been written. Thousands of movies, thousands of episodes of TV shows have been made with everything that we deal with on a day-to-day basis solidified for all to see from now and until in perpetuity, right? Because, again, that's how that works. And those aren't just going to disappear. We're going to still have those TV shows, those movies, everything. We still see new movies every year. And they're still probably putting those same old tropes into these movies, into these TV shows, because I see it all the time. And then I start wondering about the bigger picture, right? What happens if we're right? What happens if more people begin moving forward to a proper human diet? What would grocery stores look like? What would happen to food manufacturers? Would seed oils become less common? Would ultra-processed foods lose market share? I imagine that they would. Would healthcare begin focusing more on prevention than treatment? I imagine they might. I don't think junk food ever disappears completely. People are always going to want cake. There's always going to be birthdays. Because, again, we've had sweets and different things for millennia. This isn't a 20th century thing. This isn't a 19th century thing, an 18th century thing. This is a almost forever thing that humans have celebrated with food. Sweets, there's been candy. My great-grandparents had candy. Now, did they have it every day? Absolutely not. They would get it very sparingly. My great-grandmother told me about how they would take maple syrup and pour it over their snow and eat that as candy. So I don't think junk food ever truly disappears completely, because regardless of how many high percentage of people who are going to dedicate themselves to some point in a spectrum of the proper human diet, be that all the way to one end where it's just relatively low carb, single ingredient whole foods for the majority, all the way to the people who are doing lion diet and anywhere in between. I still don't think we ever completely remove processed foods. I don't ever see us completely getting rid of candy, sweets, cakes, cookies, chips, soda. I don't see that as a thing that's ever truly going to go away. But maybe those foods become occasional treats instead of daily staples. I saw a short, and I know that's not real, but a lady had a 5-gallon bucket. It was a clear, I don't know where you get a clear 5-gallon bucket, but it said Dunkin' on the side, had a huge lid, a gigantic straw, and it was full of ice and like 5 gallons of iced coffee. Now, while that would probably be okay with me because it would be just coffee and heavy cream, 5-gallon bucket is ridiculous. But it is a comical way to look at the way we approach things these days. I think you can go to Dunkin' and get a 40-ounce coffee, probably. 44-ounce coffee. You probably get that. You can probably get that at like one of the travel centers. You can probably get that at one of like, whether it's Pilot or Flying J or whatever. But again, that's a fascinating piece of the conversation, and I'm excited to explore it with you all tonight. Also, again, I posted on my community posts, and I don't know if I've posted it on my Facebook yet or not, but again, we're talking about SALTT relaunching a fan favorite flavor on June the 10th. I'm excited about it, but I know what it is. I imagine some of you might be able to guess what it is. But yes, it's exciting. But let's jump in here and let's talk about all of you amazing people here hanging out with me tonight. We got Rockin' Coach Amy is here. Good evening, lady. How are you? How are you? So very glad to see you. Let me go ahead and mute this thing because I've got things and things are buzzing, and I don't want things to buzz. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Lynn is here. She says, hi, Dustin Shander, if she's here tonight. And everyone, she is not here. It's just me. As soon as she returns, I'll put her on the thumbnail so you'll know. So be on the lookout for the thumbnail. That'll be a giveaway. She's going to be here. But then again, I could put her on there and she may not be here because that happens from time to time. And Jeff Fafa is here. Good evening, my friend Jeff. How are you? Hello, everyone. Hit the like button on your way in. Yes, please. Please do so. I appreciate it very much. And Coach Amy, Rockin' Coach Amy, my friend Amy, $4.99 super chat here for your meetup goal and for being a great friend. Well, thank you so very much, my dear. I truly appreciate that. Because going out of town and going to these meetups and trying to do things and all that stuff takes gas money, and gas ain't getting any cheaper. I think Indiana, they're getting ready to. Indiana had taken away the taxes, the state tax on their gas, and that's about to come back. So I imagine our gas is going to go up closer to $5 a gallon again. So it's been like under $4, but now they're going to put the taxes back in, and that's not going to be pretty. So they've had that out for like 30 or 60 days or something like that. I don't know. They may vote to put it back in. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yes. I did have trouble going live this evening. I hit go live and my software was like thinking. But then it was like, after about 3 to 4 minutes, it was like, I can't go live. So therefore, I just shut everything down, restarted the computer. And here we are. Renee is here. Good evening, Renee. How are you? So very glad to see you, my dear. Welcome back. And Rick, Mr. Twinbrook Acres is in the house. Hello, Rick. How are you? Karen Harrington is here. Hello, Dustin and friends. And Brian is here. Good evening, Brian. How are you doing, my buddy? Yes. And people are saying hello to each other all the way down. And Renee is asking Amy if she is going to Keto Palooza this year. And Amy says, yes, I am. And so is Renee. Oh, yeah. And Evelyn is here. Hello, Evelyn. I got to see Evelyn again on Saturday. I'm going to be hanging out a little bit. Not the best of circumstances, but we're going to make the best of it. We're going to make the best of it. And Scott Elliott says, I ate pancakes with organic syrup. I like pancakes. I don't eat them anymore, really. Very, very rarely, but sure. And Isabel is here. Hello, Isabel. Welcome. So glad to see you, dear. And Karen Low Carb Spin is in the house. Hello, hello. Yeah, and Lynn says, oops, forgot about Chandra's Pickly Ball on Tuesdays. That's just for now, because where they normally play, they've been doing, because they like to play on Wednesdays, but they have tournaments going on, so there's no open courts on Wednesdays. So now they have to play on Tuesdays. And it's good to get her out of the house. She needs to get away from me sometimes. We're together. We're all together all day today. All day. Me, her, and the baby and the little child. Because it's summer break. Summer vacation. Day 2 of summer vacation, if you don't know that. And Jackie is here. Hello, Jackie. Good evening. Good evening. In my Dracula voice. There we go. And just Jason Keto is in the house. Hello, Jason. How you doing, my friend? Evening, everyone. And Mr. Charger Mopar Rick is in the house. If you don't know.
Rick. Let's get dangerous.
Now you know. That's Rick. He's out there trying to catch a duck, which is funny because I saw duck on sale, not on sale, but I saw duck for sale at Meijer the other night for $27, and he gets them for free out of his like ravine or whatever it is, out of his ravine. And Terry Girl is here. Everybody watch out. She's a troublemaker. Hi, everybody from Liz's channel. All right, from Liz's channel. That's pretty cool. And Andy is back stateside. Good evening, dear. I hope you were well rested and gotten yourself back oriented to Eastern Standard Time with your 3-week trip in Germany. I've been sending Chandra lots and lots of little videos of all these little towns in Switzerland and in all over. I can't think of it right now, but I'm created like a little thing. I want to go to those countries and just these little sleepy towns, the cobblestones and the old structures, and just see the waterfalls and the mountains. I like mountains. Big fan of mountains. Evelyn says hello. Dustin, Amy, Isabel, Brian, Rick, Renee, Karen, Lynn. Evil laugh. And Mr. Rick says, Twin Brook Acres is a maple syrup producer. I thank you. Very, yes. And Maritza is here. Hi, Dustin, Evelyn, Amy, and all the wonderful people. All the wonderful people. Yes. There we go. There's just another red shirt. Hello, red shirt. How are you doing, friend? I'm glad to see you. I am going to do my best to hop over when this is done and hop over with Toxic Tuesday and try to be on the Days of Thunder live tonight. It's not for the faint of heart. We all have potty mouths over there, talk about things. It's going to be fun for me. Yes. Lewis is here. Hello, Lewis. How are you doing, my friend? So glad to see you. Visual Keto is here. Hey, everyone. Checking in and catching up at chipmunk speed. 1.5 speed. I love it. Visual Keto says, Team Grape Salty. I, too, am hashtag Team Grape Salty. 100,000%. Terry says, everyone looking for diet info all have one foot on a banana peel, pretty much. Yes, that's very true. I mean, really, that's really what happens, right? We're not too concerned until things start going south. Until we're like, oh, we're going to need to get on this medicine and that medicine and might need that surgery and this procedure. Then we start looking at our diet. But even still, most physicians, doctors, won't even say anything about it. They'll say, diet doesn't really impact that much. You'll be told that diabetes has nothing to do with diet. Crazy. The idea that mental health has anything to do with diet is such a taboo subject. Rick is 58 years young or old. He's just 58 years tall. There you go. And Chanel says, 47? You're just a young punk. Well, I'm a grandpa of 2. And I don't know. I don't feel old. I don't feel old. But then the number's always kind of lurking around. And Karen says Dustin is buffering. I think I was buffering for a second or two. I don't know if it's one of those things that'll be still happening right now. I don't notice it on any of my screens here. And Jason says, this time next year, no one will care about keto, carnivore. Weight loss drugs are going to be the mainstream. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I want to see this here. The reason I say this, just Ozempic alone, well, it says, no, there are currently over 3,600 pending lawsuits involving Ozempic or similar GLP-1 receptor agonist medications like Wegovy and Mounjaro and Trulicity. Now, I am not necessarily against GLP-1 drugs. I don't have a dog in the fight, okay? Now, I feel like they, as an option for weight loss, are a tool in a toolkit. And I believe that it is a better option than going and getting gastric bypass. Some people have done keto, they've done carnivore, and they're having issues, and they find success even still with a GLP-1. I'm not trying to downplay that, but that's not to say that there are not significant possibilities for complications, because there are. Because we have gastroparesis, bowel injuries, vision loss, things. These are some of the lawsuits that are pending for these drugs. So to come here and say they're all groovy is not the case, because there are significant things that have happened. People with, severe stomach paralysis, intestinal blockages, related gastrointestinal complications. And with the vision loss, a second growing consolidation of cases focuses on permanent vision loss caused by non-arteritic anterior, I'm not sure what this is, something ischemic optic neuropathy, NAION, a type of optic nerve damage. So these are very real complications that people on these pharmaceutical medications are seeing. So again, we are probably going to continue to see the usage go up, but I fear with that we will continue to see more and more lawsuits. And if you go and if you look at the block, I think that something that Rick was doing a live, I didn't get a chance to catch his live, but it was talking about black box warnings. So what are GLP-1 black box warnings? Because these are definite things that should be a part of the conversation. The FDA's black box warning, the highest level of safety alert for a GLP-1 receptor agonist, including Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, is strictly for the risk of thyroid C cell tumors, including a rare type of cancer called medullary thyroid carcinoma. Core black box warning, the thyroid cancer risk studies on rodents show GLP-1 medications can cause thyroid tumors. While it is unknown if it causes the same tumors in humans, again, we are not rodents. So it's still a black box warning. It's still something to take into consideration. The same type of thing that when you're drinking aspartame, they test it on rodents. There are studies out there showing that that the aspartame causes issues with rodents, cancer and that kind of thing. But it's, again, something you have to take into consideration. How much are they giving the rodents? How much, how much duration are they giving it to them for? These are all things to consider when you're taking any pharmaceutical medication, because there's almost a black box warning for every medication on the market. There are complications and side effect warnings for just about every pharmaceutical drug on the market. So it's very important to understand that it's not just GLP-1s. It's, I can't say all or most, but it's a very significant number, okay? And then there's other critical non-boxed FDA warnings. While the thyroid cancer risk is the only officially boxed warning, the FDA enforces strict warnings and precautions. Sections on GLP-1 labels for other severe side effects: intestinal blockages, pancreatitis, acute kidney injury, gallbladder problems, pulmonary aspiration. And, while some weight loss variants initially carried warnings about thoughts to stop being around, self-inflicted stop being around, if you understand what I'm saying, because I can't say those words or we may not be alive anymore. We may not be a live stream anymore. The FDA requested the removal of those psychiatric warnings after a comprehensive review found no increased risk. Still something I would say that you could probably consider. But if you are concerned about your personal risk factors, please review the safety profiles on Drug Watch or consult your healthcare provider. Always talk to your physician. Always talk to your doctor. Ask the important questions, just like we should be asking about every medication, whether it's a statin, whether it's, metformin, whatever it is that they're trying to prescribe. Ask questions of your doctor. Ask important, thoughtful questions of your doctor. What are the possible side effects? Does this medication come with any black box warnings? If so, what do we know about it? What's your opinion on these? Would you take them? I think these are very important, so I can't say we should give a blanket statement just to GLP-1s for these precautions and warnings. They should be lumped into every medication that has a black box precaution or warning and acute side effects, right? We should be taking and looking at all of them and not just singling out GLP-1s, but right now GLP-1s are the flavor of the month. All of the advertising we GLP-1s showing up on labeling, GLP-1 friendly on food packaging, all over the place. And it looks like I am freezing up, but I'll continue to talk. So, and Evelyn says, I officially don't know what day it is as a teacher on summer break. I had to ask if it was Tuesday when I saw you go live. That's what I'm talking about. And Amy says, my arteries are essentially clear after 10 years of keto carnivore. I love it. That's definite information that we should know. And again, one of the things that we should be asking is at what point, how much anecdotal evidence makes a situation valid, right? So, I mean, if there hasn't been any long-term double-blind placebo tests about carnivore and keto or whatever, at least that we know of. But how much anecdotal evidence do we actually need, right? These are questions. Questions I think are very important. And Mary T is here. The beautiful, wonderful Mary T. OMG, been working so much. Now off for 7 glorious days. Perfect timing for this subject. Just teaching my sister-in-law to keto. She's having a hard time transitioning. It is and can be a very difficult transition because so much of what we've learned and lived and ingrained in the muscle memory of our every fiber of our being is a balanced diet. I remember when we started, there'd be a meat and a vegetable, and I'm like, it just seems like there's not enough food on my plate. It seems like I'm missing something, and it's very disconcerting because forever you had to make sure you had at least 3 things on your plate. You had to have like a starch and a vegetable and a meat. And when you transition away from that, it becomes very difficult. And Carl's right. So many people think that a low-carb lifestyle is crazy. If they just give it a go, they'll see the benefits. Some will. Most will. Not everyone. I hear from so many people, I tried keto and it didn't work for me. And maybe it didn't. But then you start asking questions of, well, what did your keto look like? And you realize they didn't really try keto at all. But it is an uphill battle. There is a lot of propaganda. And it's not going to stop. It's going to, because there's too much money to be lost in every avenue, in every sector. If carnivore and keto becomes the norm, if these ways of eating and these lifestyles become the status quo, then they have to transition and move and find new ways to make money. Because if Kraft gets shuttered and they can't sell 1 million boxes of mac and cheese a week and they only sell 100,000 boxes of mac and cheese a week, are they going to continue to make mac and cheese? They might not. The same thing with Cremette or your grocery store brand of pastas or any of the store brands of highly palatable processed foods. Think of all the large conglomerates that are out there. Like any product you pick up is probably one of 2 to 3 companies. Doesn't matter the name on the box. Even if you pick up Great Value, it's ghost built or ghost manufactured by somebody in Mondelez or these gigantic general food corporations. You can look at the Venn diagrams. You can look at these big maps of what brand is made by what company, and there's only like maybe 3 to 4, maybe 5 major companies that break off into the thousands of products that we know today. So again, people are watching, and it's up to us to make sure we're not showing out too bad. We have to show what it's really like. We have to show the positive side and not go too buck wild on everybody, right? And my buddy Jaheel says, hi, Dustin. Hi, Evelyn. Hi, everyone. Dustin, I gave up on SeaWorld Gals products. I'm going to try Splash Zone or Niagara Sally's. Both are way cheaper and not from Temu. I will let you know how it goes. Well, I hope they are a splashing success. I hope they are flooded with good comments. Anyway, don't ask. You don't want to know. Oh, I love it. Yeah, and I mean, there's definite product placements in movies, and like there's just little anecdotal things, just little throwaway phrases in all these movies that talk about, meat or cholesterol or all the things. And Evelyn says, I'm batch cooking all the things this week to keep me from stumbling. I'm guessing there'll be lots of triggers at the celebration of life for my mom. I imagine that there will be. I imagine just the celebration of itself is going to be a trigger, because those types of emotions are almost always tied to something. Because most of us have not made it this far in life without attaching something to those deep emotions. Most of us here have that deep emotional trauma tied tight, sewn, if you will, stitched to the things that have caused us so many problems over the decades. You lose somebody, and then it's very difficult to not go and get takeout or go and relapse into some of those bad habits. It's impossible. I mean, it doesn't matter. I've been doing this 10 years. When somebody passes away and they're, it's just dealing with those hardcore emotions. If you could make it through, then you're probably a better person. I mean, you're definitely a better person than me, because I don't think I've had anybody where I didn't kind of give in to those types of feelings, because it's too much. It's so heavy. It's so much. It's a lot. And again, I'm never here to give permission or say that what, to go and do whatever is okay. But again, I'm also saying that we're human. And while I'm not here to give you permission, I'm also saying that I'm human and I understand what it's like. I've lost family. And that weight is a lot. And I mean, if the worst thing you do at that is go and have some McDonald's or whatever, it's not the end of the world. Just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and make the next day just like it never happened. Yeah, and Mary T is 100% correct here. People will always celebrate with food. Celebrate being the operative word. We are supposed to celebrate occasionally, not when we start celebrating. Well, I mean, the thing is we have started doing a thing where we have self-care, and we've got to give in, and we've got to have our coffee milkshake every day, or we're putting cake in kids' lunches every single day on top of, like Little Debbie's snack cakes. On top of them having basically a sandwich, which is whatever the sandwich is made out of, between two pieces of cake. It's more cake than it is bread. If you're using standard white bread, it's more akin to cake than it is to bread. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, that's basically cake. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich on white bread is basically cake. People would be big mad if I'm like, peanut butter and jelly sandwich with all the sugar in the peanut butter, the sugar in the jelly, and all the sugar and carbohydrates in the bread. It's basically cake. People would be very mad at me. You guys understand, but you guys are the choir. You understand. And Jason says, here is what the headlines will be eventually. Why change your diet or thoughts about food when you can just take a shot? But I think there is the thing about GLP-1s that I think is kind of misunderstood is the fact that I know people who are on them, and we have very own people who come in here into these chats every week that are on GLP-1s. I have very close personal friends who are on them, and they talk about the lack of food noise. They talk about a lack of appetite. Now, if we could just get that, if we could just get and utilize that portion of it and get them to start eating better, that would be fantastic. Though I do have one friend who's on a GLP-1. She's losing a bunch of weight. But then I think she just eats candy most of the time. She's eating like Reese's Cups. I would say that that's probably not the best thing. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember exactly what we all talked about, but I know we've talked about how important protein truly is. You know. And Evelyn says, I wonder if that 5-gallon coffee had free refills. I can imagine if you got through it and needed a refill. How long would that restroom visit be? How long would that? I mean, you would just be 99 bottles of beer on the wall, and you'd be like, get done. 3 bottles of beer on the wall. Just there forever. And Jason says, all we can do is try and educate people about PhD, but it's going to be tough. And I think we have to think about the word educate. Because even when it comes to health coaching, I'm not here to tell you how to eat. And I don't think it's necessarily, unless they come to us with direct questions, our friends, our family, they come to us with direct questions. What should I do? Should it be this or this? Would you rather, is it better to eat this or is it better to eat this? Then we can have those conversations. But I think we do so much more by just leading by example and allowing them to come to us. I think just showing that this lifestyle is sustainable. It is not a pain. It's not awful to live this way. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces that we can do. It's still going to be tough. It's still going to be slow. But I mean, we don't have a lot of other options. Yvonne says, don't tell me that. I just placed my SALTT order and can't make another till next month. Well, from what I understand is the relaunching of a particular flavor, it should no longer be limited edition status, and it will be a permanent flavor. But your guess is as good as mine. And Mary T says, my coworker taking the shot, still full of inflammation. Today she said she wished she could continue to lose without increasing her dose. I told her I could help with that, and she laughed. I mean, there's just so many pieces to the mechanism of inflammation. Because again, there's inflammation because of seed oils. There's inflammation because of grains and glyphosates in our food supply. So not just carbohydrates necessarily, but I think there's a lot of moving pieces. And thank you, Jason, for gifting a Keto Simple membership that went to Yvonne. Congratulations, Yvonne. Thank you, Jason. Congratulations to Yvonne. I appreciate you both very much. And welcome to the membership. It's going to be fun. And then Helix says, oh, finally, I'm off to work. Well, I'm so sorry. Have a great night, dear. Be safe. And Mr. Tom Garvey's in the house. Hello, my friend. What's cooking? He says, we're just hanging out, having a good time. And Eva Lynn says, Renee, are we meeting up for Pork Rind Fest? That sounds really nice. Yeah, and Karen's like, a pork rind festival? Dun, dun, dun. And Terry Girl says, the smell of pancakes in the morning is the thing for sure, Dustin. And the faint smell of coffee, maple syrup, bacon, fried eggs. Now I'm making myself hungry. Well, that's the thing is I remember growing up and having the smell of coffee. And like coffee when I was a kid smelled amazing. But it tasted like crap when I was a kid. Now I can't get enough of it. I love coffee so much. But when I was a kid, smelled amazing, tasted awful. Something just changes, you know what I mean? And Evelyn says, Karen, it's in Harrod, or whatever it is, Ohio, June 12th through the 13th, 14th, or 12th, 13th, and 14th, Pork Rind Festival. And Terry says, I'm sort of surprised that carnivals and fairs don't have a pork rind booth. Someone ought to do that, seriously. And I think it would be a moneymaker. I don't know. I'd have to look and see, because our Indiana State Fair is huge, and they very well could. I don't know. There's so many things, you never see all of it. Yes, Lewis Canal Duck. And Marisa says, there's mountains all around Las Vegas. I have friends in Las Vegas right now. I had friends there over the weekend. One of my friends was there over the weekend and got married. He got married on Sunday, which I guess it's legal in Vegas, but it's not legal. I don't think you can get married on can you get married on a Sunday? I'm pretty sure, because I've been to weddings on a Sunday before. So I'm sure. Sunday weddings. Yeah. And Mary T says, come to my house in Canada, Dustin. I live in the valley with mountains all around and rivers and lakes. They don't call it beautiful British Columbia for nothing. I would love that. I just want to go all over the world and see as many beautiful places while I'm on this planet as I can. But I am very, very glad now that there is the ability to see all these beautiful places through reels and short form content, because you get a chance to see a little bit of it and kind of start packing away, like, where do I want to go? Do I want to keep doing the same things over and over again? I mean, yes, I do want to go to Disney, but I don't want to go to Disney every year. I wouldn't mind if we live closer, then I could go multiple times a month. But I live very far away, so now it's like every 4 to 5 years we get a chance to go. Yeah, Mary T says, people look at me like I have two heads when I say most chronic disease is completely metabolic. Yeah. I had a friend, an acquaintance was having all these issues, and I said, well, what are you eating? And she's like, offended. I work with all these doctors and have for 20 years, and not a single one of them ever said anything about food. I'm like, well, and I was like, okay. Because at that point, there's nothing that I can say that's going to move that mountain. There's just nothing I can say. Oh, and Andy says, I just sent you a Sleepy Mountain Town picture. Oh, I can't wait to look at it. I'll look at it in a little bit. Super excited about it. I love it. And Mary T says, 47. Oh, man, you're young. No worries. You'll be 67 before you know it. My friend asked me how I know. Oh, I know. It's like, that's the downside, because I sit here and I look at things like Disney building all these attractions, and they're not going to open to like 2030, 2031. And I'm like, how old will I be? And they're like, oh, then the next phase, and it'll be like 2040. And I'm like, I'll be 65 in 2044. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then I'm like, how many grandkids will I have? And how old will all my kids be? And I don't know. I'm always, that's like when I worked for the life insurance company. That was one of the hardest jobs. Not like technically, not like the work itself, but it was looking at when a person was born, how old they'll be each year, how their policy grows and such for each year. And then their policy is good through this date. And when this is over, they'll be this age. And it's like, you're looking at like people and their death days and all that. It's just a lot. There we go. Jaheel says, Dustin, you better stop buffering. I know what that means in cool kid slang. I think that's buffering. I think you're thinking of gooning. Helix says, question, have you heard of Tony Food for Thought? I have not. Let me look up and see who Tony Food for Thought is. Well, I don't know which one of these people is the right people, so I don't know. I'll have to look this up later. I'm not sure. I've never heard of them. And Visual Keto says that, test to Jason. I've been telling my doctor since the beginning of time I don't want surgery and I don't want any shots. All my numbers are great except the scale. Keto is life. I agree. Gio says, Dustin, I don't know how you're 47. You look like you could be an actor on Euphoria. I haven't watched that show. I know that my daughter watches it, but I haven't got a chance to watch it yet. Is it worth a watch? Should I watch Euphoria? Let me know. John is here. Hello, Mr. Smoothie. Hello, 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 hello. And John says, I was sitting out with the feral cats. Sorry, I'm sorry I'm late. So 2000 and late. And Brian says, I like Dr. Boz's take on GLP-1s. I don't know if I've ever heard what, I don't know if I'm familiar with what her take on them is. And Brian says, I think I'm more worried about synthetic food. Yeah, I mean, but I think they still have to be labeled as synthetic food and we'll be able to make those choices. Hopefully it's not a thing where like you just well, can't afford to eat anything else. Mr. Jeremiah is in the house. Hello, my friend. Good evening, my friend. Eating some Ninja Creamy ice cream tonight. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I love it. And Helix is having an affair with a potato right now. I bet it's got its eye on you. And Evelyn says, I've always wanted to try those tiny potatoes, but now I use radishes as a substitute. My non-keto kids just call them potatoes. And yeah, I mean, we eat radishes every once in a while. It's weird how cooking gets rid of that spiciness out of them, and they become very mild flavored with no spice. No spice. Visual Keto says, it is indeed hard to be keto in a town that smells like crunch berries one day and popcorn the next. Quaker Oats, largest cereal plant in General Foods. Oh, my goodness. That's so rough because, like, cereal is seriously, like, that was one of the hardest things to walk away from was cereal. That's so hard to walk away from. Donna Ray is here. Hi, Dustin and everyone. I'm driving home now. I love it. Be safe, dear. And Jackie says, I'm so tired I can't see straight anymore. I apologize in advance for dozing off. You know what? I fall asleep during live streams all the time. Not ours, not this one, but I fall asleep. I'll put them on and just lay back and start listening, and then I'll wake up and it'll be over. I'm like, oh, okay. So Evelyn says at the memorial, they're serving all the appetizers my mom used to make, and my cousin is bringing our family recipe for banana pudding. Pudding! That's a lot. That's the way that they're going to mourn, right? That's the way that, again, food is one of the ways that we mourn. We mourn the loss of our loved ones. Like, my daughter has made us my great-grandmother's chocolate eclair cake recipe a couple of times. And I'm like, please don't. Because if you do, I have to eat it. And I mean, I've thrown like 3/4 of it in the trash because I'm like, I'd have a big just giant slice of it in a bowl. And it's basically chocolate pudding with mushy graham crackers. And it's delicious. Vanilla pudding, chocolate frosting, graham crackers, Cool Whip. It's delicious. My great-grandmother used to make it for me every birthday. And she's been gone 26 years. Then my grandmother started making it for me for my birthday. And Jackie says, oh, no, not banana pudding. Oh, yeah. I've never been a big fan of banana pudding, but just vanilla pudding, though. Vanilla pudding is my jam. And Brian says, talk about timing. Here I am. Yes, my good buddy Brian is here. Welcome, my friend. And Terry says, the people that are on Ozempic will end up making all the insurance go up. I mean, possibly. But I mean, think about like people have been on statins and all these things for decades. Statins came out in what, 1980? Let me see here. Let me remember. I got to remember. Let's see. Statins started being, let's see, the first statin was discovered 1973 by Japanese biochemist Akira Endo. The first statin approved for commercial use in the United States was lovastatin, which received FDA approval on September the 1st, 1987. So we're just now 80, so 87, 97, 07, 17. Right, that right? 87, 90, so 87, 97, 07, 17. So we're coming up on, we're not quite 40 years. 40 years. 40 years we've had statins. So the thing is we're going to continue to see pharmaceuticals because they're a moneymaker. Now, again, as I said, that doesn't necessarily mean the people that are using them aren't doing their research. There's going to be a large swath of people who are using them who don't need them. I mean, you see it with celebrities. You see it with people who are already, they're just utilizing it to lose that last 2 pounds. And they're not, and it's not even that they need it. They want to lose it for a certain aesthetic. Now, again, as I said, it is a tool in a toolbox. But also, there are certain safety issues with any medication. Just like Ozempic is not different. Ozempic has its own black box warnings. Ozempic has, like right now, it's the flavor of the month. So it's going to have lawsuits. Like there's, 3,500 lawsuits going on right now, or not more currently. And that's going to happen. And Janelle is here. Hello, Janelle. Welcome. It's good to see you. And Brian says, I don't want to assume anything, but I think everyone needs to educate themselves about things they don't know much about. And that's what we're here for. We're to have conversations about things, talk about things, hopefully learn something. Because again, like my take on GLP-1s is, again, they are a tool in a toolbox. I don't think, my personal opinion is they shouldn't be the first line of defense. Just like I don't think you should jump to gastric bypass. I had a friend who had gastric bypass, and I don't think she was a proper candidate for it. I don't think that she was not obese to the point where, you know what I mean? For her, it was more of a vanity issue. It wasn't a in danger issue. And those things I worry about. Whenever we start, whenever vanity comes in and it's not an emergency situation, I worry about it. But everybody has their right to go and research things. Hopefully they can have meaningful, impactful conversations with their primary care physician and get the skinny on it and understand, okay, these are the warnings. These are the black box warnings. These are the side effects. What's the likelihood, if we use them correctly, that we will see this type of thing? These are important conversations that we should have with in every single medication a doctor tries to give you. Not just GLP-1s, all of them. And Brian says, Mounjaro was saving my life. Doctor visit today has confirmed it's helping more than keto or carnivore ever did. And again, like I said, it's a tool in a toolbox. And for you, it is working. And I'm never going to tell somebody that they're making the wrong decision, as long as they are informed and making an informed decision. But again, these are conversations that we should be having because they're important conversations. Evelyn asks if the new SALTT is replacing a current flavor. That I am not privy to. I do not have that information. And Renee asked, Renee says, I hope the salty flavor starts with a G. We'll have to wait and find out on June 10th, won't we? Yeah, and I just think that, one of the things that we have to understand is hopefully people who take these medications will learn something and they'll be able to utilize the impact that they're having with appetite control. Because maybe you can, Brian can elaborate on this. I imagine that you're utilizing these medications in conjunction with a keto and carnivore lifestyle. And then you're not, I would imagine that that's something that you would continue to do. But I'm curious to see and hear what you have to say about that. And A. Mason is here. Good evening, dear. How are you? And Jennifer Lucas is here as well. She says, I want to go to Michigan UP. It's my happy place. I have never been that far up. Yeah, Brian says, I've mentioned Dr. Bob's explanation many times, but my memory is only so big. I don't always remember things. I'll have to go and look it up. I try to remember everything, but I can't. And Evelyn says, my dinner is a double cheeseburger with fried egg and chicken, bacon ranch loaded potato chaffle. OMG. Sounds delicious. And Jennifer says Hubs was on statins for a few years before he ended up with early onset Alzheimer's. Oh, it's so awful. And Brian says, almost all research is showing new and amazing positive impacts of GLP-1 type drugs. Demonization of these drugs are from uninformed, dogmatic people that are ruining the keto community right now. And I imagine that is, I'm sure that there's amazing things coming on. But again, when it comes to any medication, every single medication comes with side effects. Every medication comes with, or most come with like a black box warning, something that should be looked at. And these should be conversations that you have with your primary care physician and not necessarily talking amongst us. I'm not a healthcare provider. I'm not a physician. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse or a lawyer or any of these things. I'm just some guy on the internet that shares my opinions. Hopefully my opinions are rooted in some sort of experience, some sort of understanding of what's going on. I just think that, I worry when it comes to these types of drugs that, yes, we are seeing amazing positive impacts, but also we're seeing people on them who probably should not be on them because they are the flavor of the month. And that's a very important conversation that should be had as well. So yes, are people seeing amazing things from these medications who truly need them? Yes. Are people also probably on them that shouldn't be on them? Yes. So, I mean, again, we have to remember that this community, I try to make sure we keep an open mind. I try to make sure that we are not excluding anyone from the conversation. We are having open and honest conversations to the best of our abilities. And again, a lot of people are going to have negative ideas and negative opinions of GLP-1 medications. But again, I think, as I've said before, they are a tool in a toolbox. And I think that they have a place. Again, because we do live in a society where we have an abundance of food that we shouldn't be eating and have been eating it for many a decades. So, but it's coming up on time for us to call it an evening. Always happens so quick. And Marissa Snow is here. Hello. And she says, you're 100% right. The meds are helping people be consistent with keto and carnivore way of eating. Yeah. And I think if we can have it, and if we're doing informed decisions and, you know what I mean? We can't afford to be dogmatic. We can't afford to be dogmatic and only think carnivore is the way or keto is the way. But I don't see any way where single ingredient whole foods isn't a place to start. So with that, I just want to say I love each and every one of you. Thank you all so much for being here with me this evening. Thank you for the super chats, the gifted memberships. I truly appreciate it. Thank you all so much for spending, again, your Tuesday evening with me. I have a lot of love and respect for each and every one of you. And I hope that this conversation will continue next week. And with that, here comes the credits. Thank you all so much to my members, to the subscribers, and everyone in between. Love you guys. Have a great night.